All right, good afternoon. This is David Broad, president of the Central Indiana AFL-CIO. I'm here with Matt Davis, also a member of the Central Indiana AFL-CIO, our community outreach person. He has been on the streets, uh, and what we want to do is have a conversation about what's taking place here in Indiana and Indianapolis. Also address what can we do for change, because once uh, the protest is over, once the march is over, peaceful or unpeaceful, once it's over, uh, what progress have we made? What changes have we made? What changes can we see being made? So with that being said, I'd like Matt to introduce himself, some of the things that he's doing and that he's a part of. And you got the floor, Matt.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, David. It's an honor to be able to speak with labor leaders and just speak to people about what's happening in the broader labor movement. There's a lot of intersections between what's happening in criminal justice and in our communities, and what's happening in our workplace. Uh, you have several crises happening at the same time. You have a pandemic that's showing so much about public health and COVID safe workplaces, and how do we protect workers and their safety, and then also how do we protect um, our our residents and our just black and brown and marginalized communities, which make up so much of the labor body and the rank and file, and so all these things are just colliding together, and so I'm just glad to be here and be in this space and this dialogue with you and so many others across the state in solidarity with those who are on the front line trying to do direct action, civil disobedience, and then also those who are doing political action at the table to make long-term changes. So yeah, my name is Matt, and I'm with Unite Here Local 23 in regards to labor, and I'm honored to serve on the Community Engagement Committee with the Central Indiana AFL-CIO Council.
Thank you, my brother. If you could go into uh, what's been going on this last week, and first of all and foremost, uh, we want to send a heartfelt condolence to the Floyd family and to all the other families who we know without a shadow of a doubt, that if things were different, they would still be here. So my heart, and it's really hard for me to hold it together most times, because as a labor leader, uh, you're always pushing for change for people, for a better quality of life. But when you run into people who don't even recognize you in the sense that you're something different than who you are, there's no way for you to have the same blood running through your veins as everyone else in this country, in this world, and to wake up every morning and wonder if you're gonna get back home. Uh, I'm gonna tell you, brother, I ain't cried so much in my life. As a Marine Corps veteran who served this country, fight for this country, believe that this country can be the best in the world, but to have to look my daughter in her eyes and she's crying and she's worried about her dad not coming home. Fear, fear, just sheer fear and pain. And I give you a real quick example. We was out, working the polls yesterday, and Mitch was out there, and Coda knows him from the sheriff department. And she was sitting in the truck, and me and Mitch was talking, and he was, introducing himself, to people. So we were just talking. And she has my phone, and she sees I can't breathe, because it's everywhere. And she sees it again, and she's bawling in the car. And she gets out, and she just like, I don't understand why people just how could somebody take another person's life just because they don't look like them? And she's bawling, and she's like, I don't understand why the police would do that. And I'm explaining, trying to, how, even though it's not all police officers, because we have tolerated it for so long, it's normal. It's normal to hear on the news about a Black man losing his life at the hands of law enforcement, that his crime or non-crime or whatever was all done right then. He never got a chance to stand before his peers and say, I'm not guilty of what happened. I'm executed on sight. And she's bawling, and she walks up to Mitch, and mind you, this line is long, people coming. She's crying, and he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, I don't understand why why would he hurt? He's supposed to protect us. And you could see Mitch is just devastated. You know what I'm saying? And he kind of, he gets caught, and he's like, Coda, he said, you know me? And he said, and I would protect you, right? And she said, and I would never do anything like that. And she hugs him, and man, I'm crying, bro, because we're not making progress. So I want you to tell me some things that you think could help us make the progress, because I've lived long enough that I'm not going to allow my daughter to grow up and be afraid if her daddy's coming home. I'm not going.
Right.
We have to make these decisions and changes now. So just give me some ideas, some things that you may think, that we can do here in labor. Because I know, as a Black man, I don't have no problem talking to anybody. My results have always been the same. I'll hold you accountable. So all these conversations are going to have to come with something better than the same rhetoric we keep hearing.
Yeah.
So what you feel about it?
So the first thing I want to start off with is, like you said, David, this is something that hits home for everybody. There are global protests happening right now, global, over George Floyd. This is an uprising, and I mean that in the most peaceful way, period. This feels like a moment where we are trying to change an entire institution. I feel like sometimes when we take on social issues, or when we fight for social justice, especially in labor, when we fight for economic justice, sometimes it feels like, okay, we just fighting a good fight, but are we going to win? And I feel like, are we going to change the actual system? And what I feel so inspired about in this moment is that you have young people and people across all generations, who are ready, of course, across all races, but across generations, right? Who are ready to change police as an institution. And that is hopeful. That is hopeful. And so, in order to do that, though, we need systemic demands. you know. And there are several criminal justice advocates across the country, also abolitionists across the country, who have put out several different demands. Here locally, there's two main groups who have really clear demands for the mayor's office and for the department. The first is Black Lives Matter Indy, and they have been talking about the Drajon Reed case. For a month now, it's been a little murky for people. You haven't had the video, you haven't had a lot of the evidence. There's been two special investigations that have been started. One is an administrative one, and one is more about operations and just checking in with two different departments, investigating two different departments independently to get to the truth. That's what's been afoot for a month with Drajon. A lot of people have been murky because of who he is and how they want to paint him. There's been a lot of smear of that case. But today there was just a press conference that let him know that he never brandished a weapon, he never pulled out a weapon, and he never shot a weapon. He never brandished a weapon. He never pulled out a weapon. He never pointed a weapon. And he sure as hell did not shoot anyone, or there was no return, like that was not a return fire situation. So that means that that officer, not only did he violate orders from the chief of police who told him to stand down from the pursuit, right? He went ahead and used way too much deadly force with no forcible felony in action, right? That's what you use deadly force for if your officer is something like that. So it's obvious that this is a horrible situation. We all knew that it was. The demands for Drajon in his case are name the officer. That's just a basic thing. You see these situations in cities all across the Midwest right now. At least you know the officer, right? Fire the officer is the second. Charge the officer with something, right? Convict the officer on some level. Some people are calling for a murder. Indy 10 has some demands on their social media. I can give you the social media so you can link to that before the end of this call. And the use of force policy to be strengthened and rewritten. So that's one of the most immediate ones, especially today. That's a really, really volatile thing today, because the press conference was today that really revealed all that. They have the library video. So the other thing is Faith in Indiana. Faith in Indiana is a faith-based coalition. They have a full congressional network of people fighting for social justice on a regular basis. Criminal justice is one of their main points and main issue campaigns that they do across the state. I want to read off some of their demands. I've been doing a lot of direct action. My voice is a little hoarse. That you might notice that, but it's because I've been out there with these young people who are really looking for change and want to harness that energy into something. So you have the Drajon specific things, and then you also have these system and systemic demands of the department. And I'll read these off briefly, and we can move to the next thing. So strengthen the use of force policy, same as Black Lives Matter. Enact a progressive discipline policy. Again, he violated the orders of his chief. De-escalation and procedural justice training. There needs to be mandatory department-wide de-escalation training. The police have a horrible time with de-escalating situations. We see this from the peaceful civil disobediences that we see throughout this weekend, and the way that they escalate situations is absolutely deplorable. Implement group violence intervention recommendations immediately. These are ways that we can start to solve our own problems, which we also usually have to do ourselves anyway. Respond, this one was really important, respond to mental health crises with intervention, not incarceration. So we need to quit locking up people who are sick, who have mental illness, who have mental health problems or issues, which are different than being mentally ill, right? Because sometimes just being in poverty can make you mentally ill. You know what I mean? Suffering from all these social determinants can affect your mental health. So quit locking people up. Move to unfair, this is the sixth one, remove unfair protections for officers and law enforcement contracts. I just want to speak on that really quick about the Fraternal Order of Police and its importance to the labor conversation. A lot of people have been chanting a lot of strong things against the FOP, which are not unwarranted at all. Rick Schneider's commentary over the past month, from Drajon Reed to 3 people being killed in 8 hours during police action killings, that happened in 8. So Drajon got killed before 8 hours was up. After that, 2 more people got killed by police. So it was 3 and 8. And if we remember, in Cincinnati in early 2000s, 2 people got killed in 24 hours in a whole city riot. So the fact that Indianapolis is still even able to hold it together, given his commentary, is amazing. So that contract being rewritten, being redone the right way, is important, because we need all labor voices to be held accountable in this moment. All labor voices. It's an honor to be on this call with an Ask Me leader during a time of such civil rights activity, right? Think about the weight of that. I'm talking to a Ask Me leader right now, and Ask Me's legacy of civil rights, social justice, economic justice. Where is the FOP in that legacy of labor playing a role in progress? We need that right now. So let's rewrite that contract to reflect that. And then the last one is require independent investigations of all police violence. This is what we're seeing right now, where Drajon is able, the case where Drajon Reed is able to be sussed out because we have real investigation happening. So those are the systemic demands of the entire department and of the FOP. And those are very important for everybody to know in labor. Faith in Indiana is also an organization that supported Unite Here, SEIU, other industrial worker movements, and also the broader AFL-CIO across the state with their Indiana Cares Coalition for their COVID response. So they are part and parcel with this labor struggle that we have been in for years, decades, and that's how we're going to move forward, is those systemic demands.
I appreciate that. In closing, I'm just going to tell you, we don't need no more training, because it's only happening to one group of people. So we don't need law enforcement to have no more diversity training.
Oh no, not diversity.
You know, any de-escalation in it. You know why? It's the way they handle Black people, brown people, minorities in general. If you looked at what happened in Kentucky, and there's a picture of protesters, the police, and then there's a line of white women standing in between the protesters and the police. Did nobody get hit?
Exactly.
With no rubber bullets shot, with no gas. It never escalated.
Never.
Nobody was arrested. So you don't need to be trained. You need to be held accountable.
Oh yeah.
So it's accountability that we need to see from the mayor's office, from the FOP, from officers who come to the community and say, if you see something, say something. So I employ all my police officers out there, and my final little spiel before I get off here. I've heard this conversation always get turned to, well, Black people killing Black people, and Black people are being locked up and they're going to jail when they kill another Black person.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to make it clear to all my law enforcement officers, no one's mad at white people. No one's mad at law enforcement. What people are upset with is there is no accountability for when things happen in the community that don't happen anywhere else except for in minority communities. So what we have to do is take that money that you were going to use to tell somebody what they already know not to do, and put it somewhere else. Because all you have to do is start holding people accountable. If what those officers did, we did, if I put my knee on someone's neck and killed him while you and another guy held him down, we all going to jail.
Everybody.
So this sense of justice has to be justice for all, accountability for all. And if you're going to be a public servant, whether law enforcement, city council, state, right, federal, whatever, we're all accountable for this. This don't just hurt the Floyd family, it hurts us all. Because there's someone watching it feeling like it's okay. So we didn't talk about it. We done did all the talking we need to do. So that movement of young people, that movement of people that want to see it change, have to start putting themselves in positions to run for positions. No different than what the labor movement does.
Yep.
That's why we're at the State House. That's why we're at the city council meetings. That's why we're in DC. Because when they start making laws that are going to affect the people that we represent, the people that we voted for, we go to and tell them, this is not working. And if they don't do and work towards the cause, what do? You try to find you somebody that's going to work for your cause. Yep. Now, I believe the American people as a whole, come on, man. They ain't cool with this. I don't care how media try to whatever and everybody. Human beings aren't cool with seeing people murdered and people not being held accountable for it. So we're going to quit the spins and we're going to quit playing. Get ready to register everyone to vote.
Yep. Yesterday.
And change happens through the ballot box and through you holding people accountable.
Yes, sir. I wanted to just say real quick, you know, there's a lot of groups, especially those two groups that I mentioned, who have been doing a lot of good civil disobedience over the past week and the past month. And, you know, yesterday, but then over these past 4 days, just the energy, right? And especially these past 5 days, it's just been young people out there like, look, we're done. I'm just out here, like no organization, no nothing. So I just been kind of popping up, doing some giving it some direction, reading off some demands, giving a little guidance there. And yesterday, you know, because it was the primary, we had some chance about, you know, if we don't get it, vote them out. You know what I mean? Like getting young people to do that. We went in front of city council, right, the city county building, and we went to where everybody was standing in line, and they started doing that chant with us. That's power. Those young people doing that chant alone, marching to the city county building alone, that on top of that, and then having the people in line doing that chant too, that's power. Then that is what's going to make them vote in November. And that might get, that energy might get Trump out of it.
We need it. So my brother, we're gonna get off here. Appreciate you.
Appreciate
Of
you.
course, it won't be the last time we talk. I'm proud of you and all the work that you're doing, taking care of the community, being involved in the community. We've been so involved in the misjustices at the hands of law enforcement, all the other work that you've done with feeding people and getting the young kids fed and working with the union to get meals out and masks and hand sanitizer to people. I appreciate you, young man. Stay encouraged, keep up the fight, and we're gonna win in the end.
You know it. I
All right.
appreciate y'all.
Have a good one, my brother.